Sometimes we get a car come into the office that we're all so enthusiastic about, we give it a name, usually created by my young daughter Maeve. So today, we're here to review the banana car. It's actually the Volvo EX30. So what is an EX30? Well, it's a small SUV, and it's actually a little bit closely related to a couple of other cars out in the market that might or might not come to New Zealand one day. So it's on a platform that shares elements with Polestar. It is a little bit similar to a Zeekr X, which we will see here eventually, and it also provides the basis for a new EV from the Smart brand. Now there's three models. That starts with a rear-wheel drive model with a 69 kilowatt hour battery at 74,995. You go up to this, the Ultra, basically the same vehicle with a lot more spec for 78,995, though this one here, as tested, is just over $80,000 because they've gone from the standard 18-inch wheels to 20-inch units. And then if you go up to 84,995, you can get a big stonking twin-engine performance model with a 0 to 100 of just over 3 seconds. And hopefully, we'll get to drive that later on. But let's have a look at what this is. And it very much is a Volvo-looking car. I think you've got the classic kind of big Volvo logo, the big bar across the front. These lights, which they call a Thor's hammer, I think is the design look. Now, under the bonnet, there is a frunk. That's very, very small, so don't get too excited about that. Now, if we come around the side, we've got these wheels. As I mentioned, these are optional. You get to 18s by standard. And on this yellow car, lots of black accents, which I actually think really works. So you've got your A pillar, your B pillar, all that in black. A black roof, though that is technically a big glass panoramic roof under there. And you've got no tricky door handles. Nothing has to pop out for you to get into this car. You just get to go and pull the door and close the door. Beautiful, simple. Though I did notice on our production car, the passenger door seemed a little bit tight, a little bit unwilling to seat home all the time. I wonder if that's just built to quite a high tolerance, or maybe there's a little bit of an issue. It's just an interesting thing to observe there. Now, one annoying thing about the door handles, they've done great with getting these there, is the locking system. And this is a bit complicated, so we'll run through this. At the moment, you get a key fob. No buttons on it, handy. So you walk up to the car, it'll unlock, it'll let you in. The problem being is it only has the sense of that on the driver's door. So if you want to go and put your daughter, in my case, in the back seat, you've got to walk around to the front and unlock the car first by opening the door before you're able to do that. Really frustrating. Now, in May, there'll be an over-the-air update which will allow you to have proximity access from your phone as you do with the Tesla and other models, but still that will only be on the driver's door. Otherwise, you could remotely unlock the car using the app on your phone, but again, that's frustrating. And Volvo, look, Volvo head office, wherever you are listening, put proximity sensors on all the doors because it's really an unfortunate thing at the moment. And while I know that's a problem that exists with cheaper cars, this isn't a cheaper car, it's a Volvo. It's $75,000 at a base model. So please do get that sorted. Now, if we come around to the back, we have the charging port, CCS Type 2 charging, 150 kilowatt max DC or 11 kilowatt AC. It does come with a 10 amp granny cable, so handy to see that there, but no free wall box or anything with this car. I love the little detail around here with the EX30 badging, and I just think this black roof motif looks really great. Now, if we head around to the back, we have really nicely detailed lights stuck in here and these big clear units here. And the boot, we've got just a single button here to open the boot. Now, I would have loved to have seen, something like a foot opener or whatever, but no matter how much I sweep my foot under there, I can't find one. And again, without buttons on the key, that is just a little bit annoying. You've got to get up there and use a hand to open and close the door. But once you're in there, it's actually a fairly big usable boot. The back seat folds flat, and it's a really square opening. I got two really big boxed heaters in it on the weekend. So small, but perfectly formed. Some would argue having the load lip high on the floor is a little bit annoying, but it is a two-stage floor. I didn't find it too much of an issue. So yeah, that's the Volvo EX30 from the outside. Let's go and have a little bit of a look inside. Now, in the front of the EX30, it feels pretty darn spacious. I feel like I've got plenty of room here, and I've still got further adjustment to go back in the seat if I really needed it. It just feels nice and light and airy. It's got a really well done glass roof, and the dash is pushed well away from you. It's really nice. I love the kind of square steering wheel, lots of control buttons on here, and some controls there that we'll get into while we're driving the car. Now, they've really focused on recycled materials other items there. You've got all sorts of interesting finishes down here. I believe some of these textures are recycled kind of laminated denim, various other things. Again, with the seats, I think that's the denim finish as well. Now, they have done a lot to move buttons onto the screen to the point where there is a glove box. You've got to go onto the screen, push a button about 3 times, and it opens. There's a little glove box, enough for the basics. You've got these vents here, big vertical vents. They seem to work okay. Now, the stereo, it's interesting. You've got this big kind of soundbar-y look thing in the front by Harman Kardon, as opposed to speakers down on the bottom of the doors. Sounds pretty thumping. I think there's a subwoofer in the boot as well. But big storage pockets in the doors, but no specific bottle holder, which I found a little bit interesting. Now, if we go to the center console through here, there's some interesting things. There's no storage under here unless you go from behind. And then these cup holders here that slide out, they're kind of a weird little multi-system. So you've got this bit here, which can slide back in, this whole thing that can slide back in 2 stages. So you can have one a cup holder, or no cup holders, or 2 cup holders. You have the cup holders with the cup holders in it. It does feel a little fragile and flimsy, like I'm slightly worried it's going to break, and it's piano black, so I'm worried about potentially things scratching. So just something to note there. I wasn't entirely happy with that. Similarly, I'm not entirely happy at a $75,000 plus car with the fact that you've only got front window switches here and you've got to push rear to do the back windows. Now, I know that's a bit more common in cars these days. Volkswagen does the same thing. I still don't like it. If we go down here into the center console, you've got big storage tray here, more storage if you open that up, and a couple of USB-C ports. And then you've got a wireless charger down here for your phone and space from the phone. Though there was something buggy with that too that I found. There's obviously a sensor there for telling if there's like a card there, an opening card or some kind of RFID item. And another time when I'd go and put my phone in there, it would trigger PayWave. It's an interesting system there. Now, the system itself, the screen here, it's based on Android. You've got a lot of different options around using the car, controlling things like the mirrors and all sorts of stuff. The boot can select one pedal drive, the lane keeping aid, climate control, plenty of options. It works well enough. I like it. Now, it's 5G connected. It has Google built in, so you can ask it all sorts of stuff. You get 4 years of free unlimited connectivity. When they say unlimited, we were told that was fair use. So while you can run your Google Music and all that kind of stuff all day long, I imagine if you start hacking it and try and download movies or whatever on there, they might start questioning you. And the Google Assistant I found was actually pretty functional. So say, for example, on the way down, I had to call the vet. I was able just to say, call the Mangawhai vet. It found the number for me and just called. Really easy, a great way to not have to look at your phone or do things, but still be productive when you're on the road. And I believe there's all sorts of plugins and enhancements you can use with that system to make your life easier, calendars, that kind of thing. Now, it does have Android Auto at the moment, wired or wireless. Apple CarPlay is coming. We understand it should be here in a over-the-air update by May. And again, that will be wired or wireless. And of course, Apple CarPlay, I think, really important. I'm an iPhone user. So many people are really key to have. Now, the back seat. If there's a downside to the EX30, it is the back seat. This is a car that's priced against, in some cases, some bigger competition here. This is more expensive than a Tesla Model Y. I think it's probably more closely approximated to a Tesla Model 3 if you want to go head-to-head with Teslas. The fact this has got a bit of a bigger battery, but similar performance, that kind of thing. The back seat's not great. It's okay. Smaller adults will fit in there. Kids are fine. But it is just a bit tight back there. You do get 2 USB-C charging ports back there. There's plenty of headroom. So not too bad from that perspective, but just leg room, perhaps just a little bit tight. And another little note, and I have fed this back to Volvo, and they are hopefully going to feed this back to head office, is that the fabric between the ISOFIX points, for you parents out there, it is a bit tight, and so stretching fixed ISOFIX points in the seat around that fabric can be a bit of a mission. Right, that's from the inside of the car. Let's go for a drive. So, what's the EX30 like to drive? Well, I really, really like it. Now, this is no sports car. It's a small SUV, but it really does feel sporty. Now, this one's rear-wheel drive, and it feels rear-wheel drive. You know, some cars feel rear-wheel drive, and they feel pretty neutral. The Tesla Model 3 is an example of that. This thing just really does feel like it has a rear bias. You know, the steering at the front wheel feels nice and light and responsive. There's not a huge amount of feel, but it wants to turn. It's really eager and just feels really easy to drive in an energetic way. And that's pretty cool. There is a solid amount of power on tap. In the Ultra model that we're driving here, or for that matter, any of the rear-wheel drives, you've got 200 kilowatts and 343 newton meters of torque. You've got a 0 to 100 of just over 5 seconds, and it squirts away fast. And you can actually provoke it into a bit of a single spinner drift out of intersections if you really want to. The traction control system seems pretty happy to let you have a little bit of a play. The brakes feel great, no sign of woodiness, and the regen, you can have one pedal drive. I prefer not to. Works perfectly well. I have no complaints about how this thing drives. It's just really enjoyable. The driving position's great. This is great. It might be nice to have a heads-up display or something to just show you what the speed limit is, but there isn't. But you kind of get used to this, and the fact that it's upright and vertical, it's pretty visible there. Now, driving controls-wise, you have your gear shifter down here, and it's very much like a earlier Tesla, where to control the suite of driver assistance features, and there are a lot, you just tap down the stick. And it works well. It's not an autopilot, but it's a very stable driver assistance function. So if we tap down there, it's going to identify the road, and then off it goes. It does well. You know, I'm not sure if this is necessarily the same system that we've seen previously in Volvo, or whether it's something more related to the Chinese side of the business. But it does a really decent job. You've got a small amount of information there on what the car's seeing around it. Does well. So lane keep, blind spot, all those kind of things, right down to the fact that when I was sitting on the side of the road before setting up the cameras, was about to open the door, saw a car coming, and it's telling me on the screen here, you know, don't open the door. So super handy to have. Again, like I say, I have so many things. It's not autopilot, but it's a really solid system that you'll find really helpful driving on the motorways. Now, range-wise, I on this trip, on my 7-day test, I've only seen really a range of about 350 kilometers. But that's unfair. I have been having a lot of fun, a lot of safe fun, but a lot of fun in this car. I think realistically, around town it's 450, open road 400. And that's a pretty solid effort. Really, really great all-rounder car if you can forgive some of the stuff that we are talking about on the outside and with the interior. Now let's talk tech and screens for a second. Some cars on this platform actually have the ability to make car noises, so motor noises, the Smart being one of them. They haven't done that on the EX30, and I'm happy for it. It doesn't need it. The screen itself, big vertical unit here, I think it's about 12.5 inches. It is based on Android, on a Google platform, so everything in here works as if almost like a slightly modified Android tablet. Google Maps is the basis for the mapping system, works incredibly well, and you do a lot of stuff with your voice. I think the only downside of the screen is that sometimes the text is a little bit faint, a little bit hard to read, but it's pretty explanatory, gives you plenty of options. It's a pretty good all-round stable system. Once that CarPlay is there, I think it's going to be a little bit better, certainly for those with Apple products. So, the Volvo EX30, I really like this car. There's a few little niggles, as we've mentioned, that I think Volvo hopefully listening on, that once they tweak could make this a really good all-round vehicle. And I don't think the value is that bad either. Now, sure, you can get a Tesla for less money, but I think potentially the build quality and all-round experience in this is a smidge better. And if you look at it against things like the Jeep Avenger, it's just a no-brainer to spend that little bit more to go for the entry-level EX30. Now, there is a little side quest hopefully Volvo might look at for the New Zealand market at some point. In some markets, there is a 50-something kilowatt hour LFP battery option open for this car. And if that could come to New Zealand at a lower price tag, now that would be really interesting. Anyway, we're going to hopefully test this soon on a 1,000-kilometer test and also try the performance model. So if you want to see those videos, don't forget to go below, hit the subscribe button, hit the bell, and we'll catch you soon for more great content on EVs and beyond.